Welcome to another episode of the Recovering Cinderella podcast. My name is Keri Lauderdale Olson. I am also known as Recovering Cinderella. I'm a master certified life coach specializing in empowering women to move forward after divorce and build lives they love. The podcast is all about real stories of hope, inspiration, and advice from women who have made it through divorce for women going through it. Today, we are talking to Samantha, who has gone through her own divorce and has really built this incredible new life on her own as a single mom and a successful businesswoman. So Samantha, welcome to the Recovering Cinderella podcast.
Thank you, Keri. I'm honored to be here.
Really happy to have you on today. And why don't you begin by telling us a little bit about your story? How long were you married and just a little bit about how everything started.
So I was married for about, depending on how you want to calculate it, you can say 10 to 12 years. The first 10, we had our 3 kids and it was going well. We started having some issues and it took about 2 years for me to realize that this is something that I can't fix and I just needed to let go and focus on myself. So it took 2 years of heartache to reach the finalized divorce and moving on.
And that's, I think, most people who've been through divorce can kind of relate to that there's that time where you kind of know it's not going to work and yet you really want to make it work and you hang in there and it takes some time. It's not usually a split second decision to divorce. So during that 10 years, did you get married young?
Yeah, I got married at 19. I got pregnant 3 months right after the wedding and my first was born on our first anniversary. So I was pretty young.
Yeah.
And then the second came 14 months later. So that's all I've known is getting married, raising kids, staying at home, that whole ordeal. My third came when I was 27. So that was about 5 to 6 years after my second. And that was all I knew. That was marriage life for me. So,
and
yeah.
Your marriage, I mean, was it always rocky or did it change?
We had some ups and downs, but not anything even worth going through. That's why it was very shocking for me. I think it was a good relationship for the most part. We had our issues, we had our differences, and the reason for the divorce was I was completely shocked because I did not comprehend the idea that somebody you know or you think you know so well can change so drastically in such a small period of time, which is what I experienced. He just turned into a completely different person. I don't know the reasons. I don't know, why or how or when all of this happened, but a lot of things happened to the point where I just couldn't take it anymore. It was breaking relationship, and once it's broken, it's hard to fix, especially from one side. So I'm not saying I had no fault in anything, of course, but it was never enough to warrant all of this. So it took me such a long time because of the shock. Had he been a bad person to begin with, it would have been an easy decision. But in my situation, a lot of my friends and people who actually know me personally can attest to the fact that it was very shocking. So healing, grieving, finding my worth, finding my value and my strength took a really long time.
So I usually ask my guests, was there one incident, was there a turning point that you just knew this is it? I'm not going back?
I'm sure we all get there, but like I said, being married so young, and I would say I was naive, maybe a little bit dumb, but just like I said, like getting used to a lifestyle that you feel like, okay, this is it, this is my life, this is how it's gonna be, and then actually realizing that it's not normal, or that the things that you really want in life are actually, you're supposed to get them and they're not this fairy tale, situation, made me realize that I am worth more than this, and it's not worth it for me to keep fighting for it to keep it. Um, the change itself, when I think about it in terms of timeline, it happened in a really short timeline. I can't remember exactly when the turning point happened because everything just blended in so well, and my brain just mushed it all in one big ball of grief. But there was a very significant period of time where I was like, okay, this is it. There's no fixing, there's no going back. I was the one always trying to fix things and make it work, and I put myself in very low situations to make it work until the point when my dad finally found out, because I didn't tell anybody. He basically pried me out of the house and said, "You're leaving, you're going, this is it, this is wrong." So that was the beginning of the rest of my life.
Sometimes it does take those people that love us putting that mirror up in front of us and saying, this isn't acceptable.
Yeah.
And because we come to just accept what is and try to make it work, and we're so desperate to do that we don't often see in reality what the situation has become. So, sometimes it takes somebody holding that mirror up and saying, this isn't okay. Yeah. So how many years ago was your divorce?
2 in September. It was officially finalized in 2018.
Okay. So did you know what your next steps were when you first got divorced, or how you were going to create a new life, or how did you decide what you were going to do with the rest of your life?
So like I said, I stayed with my dad. Once he took me out of the house, I stayed with my dad for about 7 months until we tried to figure out this whole new life, because all of this was new to everybody. He helped me financially. He helped me, he gave me the whole basement. I stayed there with my kids, and just to get a breathing room of not having to worry about anything, but also try to figure out what's next. Mm-hmm. I was running a small business at the time, selling like custom designs on mugs and crafts and, on Etsy and Amazon and all that stuff. So that was something that I immediately restarted once I left and tried to provide some sort of income. So, I can get my kids what they wanted without having to ask for anything. I'm a very independent person. So as much as my dad loves me and gives me absolutely anything I would ask for, I would hate to be that person to take advantage of that. So I needed this for me. I needed to feel significant. I needed to feel independent and, to be able to provide for my own self and my kids. So I did restart the business. Within 2 weeks, so the way I got into real estate is my realtor at the time, she sold us about 8 or 9 houses during those 10 years period between us and my ex-in-laws and my parents and brothers and all that stuff. And every time we would go see a house or, go through a residential real estate transaction, she would be like, "You have a really good eye for real estate. I need you on my team. A lot of people, stuff like that." And I'm like, "Hey, thanks so much. That means a lot. But I have 2 little kids and I don't think that's going to work. Plus my ex never wanted me to work anyways. So that was out of the question." But every time she's like, you're doing all the work. You see all the things I see. You need to do this. You need to be on my team. So after staying at my parents' house for 2 weeks with no goal in mind, her voice just started popping up in my head. I need you on my team. I need you on my team. And I called her and I was like, hey, do you still need me on your team? So it just all went from there. It was from that day to the day I got licensed was 1 month. It just happened so quick, so fast. And that was definitely the change time for me, especially for my self-worth and for knowing that I do have potential. I do have something to offer. I am a part of this community society. I'm not a burden. You know how there's a taboo sometimes, especially in my culture, of divorced women, especially with kids. They're just burdens on everybody and whatnot. It's so wrong, but it's there. And not enough people talk about it. So it gave me my self-worth. It gave me a reason to keep moving on. It gave me power.
So, because our listeners can't all see you, why don't you talk a little bit about your culture, if you're comfortable, and how that played into your marriage? You know, you said your husband didn't want you to work, and how you were able to transition that into a career.
Yeah. So I'm Muslim and I wear a scarf, and my dad's from Palestine. My mom's Vietnamese. I was born in New Jersey. So I have a lot of different cultures.
Mm-hmm.
I was raised in Palestine. So the culture over there is very, very different than here. It's not as open as one would see here. So part of the culture is like, once you get married, you can have a job if you want to, but basically from, behind your head, you're a housewife. Your house comes first, your kids come first, your husband comes first, all that sort of mentality. It is drastically changing now, which I'm very happy to see, but in the back of your head, that's basically what's going on. And he was very old school, very vocal about me not working, and that my job, he works to provide for us, and my job is to take care of the household, basically. So when I was running my little businesses / hobbies, it was always a stay-at-home thing. It wasn't anything where I would actually have a 9-to-5 job or, help provide for the family, even if we needed it at any time. It wasn't going to happen, basically. So I forgot where I was going with this.
No, it's just, it just helps to understand the background. So you came, you came from a marriage where the expectation was you didn't work. You took care of the home, you took care of your husband, you took care of your kids. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden you're this divorced woman. And so, you said within basically a few weeks of moving out on your own or living with your parents, but basically out of the marital home, all of a sudden you go out and you get your real estate license.
Yeah. Because I knew running these small businesses, like one of them was reselling retail arbitrage on Amazon and eBay. That's how I started. I started my eBay store when the day my son was born, like literally in the hospital. I had a laptop and I started that store. And it grew with time. And the more I put into it, the more I get out of it. But that was, I wouldn't say affecting the marriage, but it was affecting his look on the marriage, because now he saw something taking me away from what I'm supposed to be doing. And he would immediately, once it would become successful enough to make income, he would shut it down. He would be like, okay, you can't do that anymore because you're taking your time away from what's more important. So I knew I had this kind of entrepreneurial passion in me. I knew I wanted to be able to do something, not for the money, just for the comfort of being able to provide for myself or making something, just, like, oh, this didn't exist before, and now it does. So I knew I had that in me. I knew I did not want to have a boss. It's just ingrained in me somehow. I'm not sure how, but I realized that later on. And I was trying to figure out what kind of job can I even do. I'd never finished college. I got pregnant so quick with my first, and then the second came. I never got a degree. I don't even know what qualification I could have to begin with to get a job. People with degrees aren't getting jobs. What kind of job am I going to get? I don't want to work for a boss. I don't want a 9 to 5. I have kids that were really young at the time. I needed flexibility. I needed the income. I needed so many different things. And when I thought about it with real estate, I was able to do all of that. You don't make money if you don't work, which is the bad part of the flexibility. But at the same time, you are able to move things around. You don't have to answer to anybody. You can create your own schedule. If you choose not to work, you don't have to work. You just don't get paid.
Yeah.
So I really like the flexibility. I like the business mindset behind it because I've had these smaller little businesses. I already had that going for me. So it just made more sense, especially with my mentor cheering me on, saying, yeah, you can do this. You've been, born for this and all that stuff. And the fact I was able to get my license within a very short period of time, going through what I was going through mentally and emotionally, I'm pretty proud of that.
And you should be. Do you think it helped to give you something to focus on while you were going through your divorce, that you had this goal that, you were studying for your license, you got your license within a month? How did that help you with going through the divorce process, do you think?
It was definitely something good to focus on. I wouldn't call it a distraction. I would call it I can't find the word. Something to look forward to.
Focus, something that you could.
Yeah, like to aspire to be, somebody important or somebody who tries to do something for themselves.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, good.
How did you feel when you got your license, when you passed your exam and got your license?
It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. I passed it from the first time after everybody was scaring me. Oh, the math is hard and there's a lot of stuff that you might not pass it the first time and it's okay. You'll just take it again. But I passed it the first time and I was extremely proud. Very, very, very happy because that's when I knew, okay, this is really happening. This is the beginning of the rest of my life. This is my next chapter. And it just all happened so quickly that the amount of growth that I had to go through from start to finish of that, just that month, leaving the marital home for the very first time ever, and living with my parents again after having kids, and studying for classes and figuring out my new lifestyle and being independent and all that stuff was so much growth at once. But I loved every second of it. So it's just, I don't know, it was very liberating, I should say.
Liberating is a great word because it sounds like you were fortunate enough to find something that you really wanted to do and you were passionate about it and grasp onto it pretty early, because sometimes it takes some of us longer to figure out what that path is, but you just, you had that calling and you went after it. So talk about a little bit about your career and how in 2 years that career has evolved.
So I counted it the other day. It's been exactly 3 years.
Okay.
I got my license, but then the divorce wasn't official or anything until about a year and a half later. So I know the numbers all don't work, but it's been exactly about 3 years now. It's been really surprising to me, growth that I've found, because I found a community that was very supportive of me. They I call them my tribe. They rooted on for me on the very, very early stages. They had no idea what kind of person I was. They had no idea what I was capable of and if this even was for me or not. But they supported me 100% of the way by helping me find business or referring people to me. It just grew way faster than I could have ever imagined. And I am deeply, deeply grateful to have that because I know not everybody has that. And during divorce, especially when it's as shocking as mine, you just feel unworthy, you feel lonely, you feel like everything is your fault. You just feel all these negative emotions. You go through anxiety and depression, which I still have anxiety till this day, but it's not as bad as it used to be. But having all those negative thoughts, thinking you're the cause of your divorce and getting all the guilt with the mom guilt and like we all know that. And then still having these people that are strangers and they don't know you or they barely know you to support you in the way that I have, I can never repay that. I can never repay that.
So I mean, I know, and I want you to, you're very humble and you're very modest, but I know your career has exploded. So you are a top producer in your company, right?
Yes. So I started my team last, let's see, I'm trying to think numbers here. I got divorced September 18. I started my team October 18. And I had my best friend on with me. She was my partner at the time. And then a year later, I added another partner. So we're 3 right now. We are doing very well. I'm very proud of all of them. There is potential for another 2 to 3 to be joining in the next year. So far, we've sold or helped 130 families get into their new homes or sell their homes within the 3-year period.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like when I did the numbers, I'm like, wait, when did this happen again? How is this going on? But again, because of that community that I mentioned earlier, because of their support, it was just like the minute I started selling, it just skyrocketed from there. And I understand that that's not how it happens for everybody. A lot of people reach out to me and say, you make this look too easy. And I'm like, you have no idea how much hard work goes into it in the back scene that I don't show you. But I'm very, very grateful to be where I am today. Being that local support, local expert, local person that the go-to person. It's just, I don't know what else to say. It's just I'm very honored. I'm very honored to be where I am.
So looking back over the last few years, and I think many of us can relate to the fact that the divorce took a little bit longer. You moved out, but it takes a while. So essentially, you've really been on your own almost 3 years, or 3 years before the divorce was final.
Let's see. I moved out March 2017. I forgot to mention I actually did go back September of 17.
Okay.
For me, I needed the closure, and he had reached out, tried to fix whatever he did, and said, I want my family under one roof again. Can we just give this one last try? All that sweet talk, whatever that they do all the time. And for me, there were a lot of what ifs in the back of my head. Because to be completely honest, when I got married, I never imagined us getting a divorce, ever. I saw other people doing it, and it would baffle my mind why anybody would do that. But now that I'm in this situation, I can completely understand. But I needed that closure. So I did go back. I went back, and it lasted 8 months. And it was very eye-opening for me how when somebody wants something, they will let you hear what you want to get it. And then once they don't need it anymore, you're insignificant. So that's when I got my closure. That's when I was like, okay, this is not how it's supposed to be. There's a lot of wrong things. There's a lot of things now that I know what I know. And now that I have a career that's starting, I knew better. I knew better and I knew my worth. And we had mutually agreed at the time that enough is enough. And then I moved out. I bought my own place and moved out June of 18. And then we got the paperwork done because we settled and we were able to be mutual at the time and amicable. The first time around, there was a lot of anger. There was a lot of hatred and stuff like that. But it was good. I wouldn't suggest everybody do it, but it was very good for me because I came out with a more peaceful outcome. And we were able to settle and, finish up the divorce within 2 months. Most people's divorces actually take years and years.
Yeah.
My parents took at least a year and a half because there was all that tension and stuff going on. So I don't regret the idea that I did go back because now I'm completely settled, able to move on, healed, grieved, did all that stuff. Okay, we're doing this. Let's do it. So I bought a place and I moved out and then it was finalized. And now it's time to go big because there's no going home.
So you bought a place for you and your kids.
Mm-hmm.
And talk about that, your first home that you bought for your kids and you. What was that like?
So I knew I did not want to go back to live in my parents' basement. They live in a different school district than what my kids were used to, even though we're only 15 minutes apart, same city, but it was a completely different school district. And I saw how it affected my kids. With all the change that was already going on, I did not want them to have to go through that again. So my main goal was to keep the kids in the same exact schools that they were used to when we were living together, basically. So we talked about me staying in the house for another month and a half until I could find a place. The only place I could afford with 3 bedrooms, since I had 3 kids, was a small condo in Lee Summit. It was good enough. It was good enough for us. It had a small kitchen, dining, living room, and 3 bedrooms. It was all we needed, especially with the custody plan that we had agreed to was week on and week off.
Okay.
And it was literally across the highway since the schools are so close. So that was the only 3-bedroom place I could find that was in my budget. So I bought it. I moved into it. It was perfect. It was perfect size for us. I lived in it for 2 years. I just recently sold it, actually. But it was a great place for me to start over on my own as an independent single mother. I did not have to rely on anybody to do anything for me. I think that's what gave me the most, I wouldn't say joy, but, like, hey, I did this on my own and I didn't need him and all that stuff because there was no child support, no alimony, nothing during the divorce. So there was nothing financially contributed from him towards my growth, which makes me so happy.
So you did really do it on your own. I mean,
literally did it on my own. My dad helped me co-sign at the beginning because you have to have 2 years tax returns in order to get a loan. And I only had 1.5 years. So he helped me with that. He helped me with the down payment initially, but everything else was completely on my own. And I grew it from there. Once we got to a point with custody that he wasn't able to care for them anymore, week on, week off, we talked about modifying the parenting plan where I now have them full time. He gets to visit them or they get to sleep over at a certain schedule, and now he pays something for child support. So it works better now. But at the end of the day, it all came back to my kids' mental health. Staying in the same schools, keeping the same friends, trying to keep the same lifestyle that they had so they don't, feel less than, or that there's something not provided, especially with the fact that there's no more two parents in the house.
Mm-hmm.
That was very important to me, to keep their lifestyle as stable as possible.
To give them that security. And you mentioned the mom guilt earlier. And I think I don't know a mom that's been divorced that doesn't have mom guilt. Because even my boys are in their 20s and I still have mom guilt,
Yeah,
because
it doesn't go away. It never does.
You don't get married thinking you're going to get divorced, and you don't have kids thinking that you're going to be a single parent raising them. That's not what the plan was. Right. But, I've seen, some of the things that you've done with your kids, and what a great role model you are, that you are this independent woman that has created this life for them. And, that's amazing. And they're blessed to have you as their mom.
I would hope so.
So you mentioned you just sold your condo. What did you do?
So because of the situation where I had the full custody, I guess you can call it, the condo wasn't big enough for us anymore, because my older two are bigger and taller than I am now. I'm not happy about that, but they do need their own space. The girls were sharing a room, and now they each need their own space. We only had one small living room, like when each kid would be on a couch and there's no room for anybody else, basically. So I did decide that, okay, maybe this is time. It's another milestone where I do have them full time. I'm used to having on and off, which means I can work as hard as I want for a whole week and then take a little bit of time off when I have them to hang out with them and enjoy them. But now that they're going to be here all of the time, we definitely need our own space to keep this family going and happy. So I ended up buying a house that's literally 3 minutes down the road. It has 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. The girls are upstairs, each in their own rooms. I'm on the main level by myself with the living, kitchen, dining. And then my son is downstairs with also a walkout basement and all that stuff, so he can play his games and whatever. So everybody basically has their own floor to give everybody their space that they need. They actually have privacy now, and they don't fight as much because they don't see each other. So it was great. It was absolutely, that was another milestone that I'm really proud of, because this one for sure I did on my own. With the growth that I had in the business, I was able to buy a house this big, which is even bigger than the marital home that we had before. So for now, I don't see myself moving anytime soon because there is absolutely no reason to. It's big enough to grow into. Even like my dad stayed with me for a really long time. He had his own huge room as well. So it's a great home for us. And I remodeled it. I put my touch onto it. I made it mine. It's something that I'm very happy and proud in. I do get to go home now and feel relaxed.
And what an awesome accomplishment. You in a very short amount of time, you have created a successful career, you have full custody of your kids, and, you just bought a home that was larger than the marital home that you shared with your ex-spouse. So you should be proud. That's amazing. So as you look back over this whole process, what is the one piece of advice that you would give somebody going through a divorce now that you wish somebody had told you, or you think that they should know?
There is light at the end of the tunnel. It seems like you are in a really, really deep hole and it's never going to be easy to get out of it. Seek therapy. Therapy is very good. I did it for 6 months, at least during the divorce time. If you have any sort of anxiety or depression, call your doctor. Get medicated if you have to to function for your own kids. I did have to do that. I'm a person that's anti-medicine. Not anti, but like I don't need it unless I'm dying. And I got put on Xanax, I got put on Celexa, I got put on so many different things because I was in such a low spot in my life where I just needed it to keep my kids alive, basically at that point. Do what you have to do. Find a community that will support you, that will listen to you, and vent as much as you can. Grieve as much as you can. It's completely okay. Cry your heart out, because if it hurts, that means it mattered. And for you to be able to move on and heal, you have to heal your grief first. Whether the other person sees it or not, nobody's going to give you the happiness you need unless you seek it yourself.
That is so true. And you spent time working on yourself. Like, you focused internally on what you needed and what would make you happy and what drove you. And that is the best thing that you can do, is focus on yourself first.
That's the only thing you can do at this point, especially with multiple kids.
Yeah.
They are the ones that see you daily, on a daily basis. And if you are not strong for yourself, you can't be strong for them. And they deserve to see what happiness looks like. And keeping the marriage as toxic or as bumpy as it was not going to help them at all see how a married couple should be like. I always said it, happy and single is so much better than miserable and married.
Yes.
And kids, I do not want my kids to ever think that they have to stay in a situation like that. I want them to know their worth. I want them to know their happiness matters. I want them to know that they can get whatever they want in life, doesn't matter where. They just have to seek it. You cannot rely on another human being to give you happiness. And the minute I recognized that is when I was completely able to shift my mindset and move on. I was so focused on fixing what we had to stay together, fixing all the brokenness, overcompensating for what I even shouldn't be overcompensating for, things that were not my fault, but still trying to do them anyways because I just wanted to be happy and go back to the stability that I had before. And again, because it was so shocking for me and it was unknown territory, and I don't do well in unknown territory.
Well, it's that comfort level, right? It's your security. It's what you know. And a lot of times what you know, even if it's not great, is more comforting than the unknown, which you don't know what to expect.
Exactly. It was my comfort bubble. That's all I knew, and I was happy in it, or so I thought. But there's no growth inside your comfort zone. Absolutely none. And to be completely honest, now that I think about it and look back at everything, I'm really glad it happened, because I would never be where I am today without that. I found my voice that I didn't know I had. I found my strength. I found my potential, and I am capable of doing good things. A lot of them. It's just me now that's setting that limitation, if I want to do them or not if I can do them or not. There's a huge difference in mindset between the two. And I love the fact that I don't have to answer to anybody to do whatever. That freedom, that first taste of freedom when you leave, especially a toxic relationship, is, I can't even explain it in words. It's worth everything in life to taste that first bit of freedom that you get once you know you're done and you leave, and now you are the one who's in control of your life, and you get to make your own decisions, and you get to do whatever you've ever wanted in your life. There's no more limitations, and it's absolutely amazing. So it's worth it. Hold on, go through what you need to go through. It's completely okay to feel miserable and feel hurt and feel sad and mad. Everything is valid, but you have to grieve on your own. You have to get there on your own. If you can't get there on your own, seek therapy. You will get there at some point, and then you're going to be very happy at the end.
Well, it sounds like your next chapter is better than your last one was. And I appreciate you taking the time to tell your story, because while each divorce is as unique as the people in it, there are some similarities, and someone out there listening hopefully can identify and realize that they're not alone, and that, there is hope at the end of the tunnel. So thank you, Samantha. I appreciate you being here today and sharing your story. Tune in again next week for another episode of Recovering Cinderella, where we share stories of hope and inspiration from women who have been through divorce, for women going through it. Again, if you are not following me, you can follow me at Recovering Cinderella on Facebook and Instagram. You can go to my website, recoveringcinderella.com, to find all of those Recovering Cinderella podcasts. You can also apply to be on the show if you have your own Recovering Cinderella story that you would like to share with other women. Additionally, if you are looking for one-on-one coaching to help get you through the divorce, or even get you started again to figure out what your next chapter looks like after divorce, you can find information on my personal coaching sessions, one-on-one divorce recovery coaching, or divorce support group coaching, where I do small groups of women that support each other through divorce recovery, at recoveringcinderella.com. Have a great week, beautiful. And remember, your story didn't end with your divorce. You are still writing it, and the next chapter is going to be even better than the last.